So we're here in a residential location in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and we're in, I believe, a two-story house that has an attic attached to it. It's a duplex, so there's another side to the house. But the gentleman that lives here is getting all kinds of activity, not just orbs, but also things like taps when he asks questions, knocks, bangs, seeing strange figures and that sort of thing. So we're here to figure out exactly what's going on.
We're starting off with our baseline sweep, and one thing, as soon as I turn on the tri-field meter, we're up at 4 milligauss in the dining room area alone. And this field is all over. Now, keeping in mind that normally if you put this up to a refrigerator, you'll get 3 milligauss. So 4, 5 as we come over here is pretty significant. What does this mean? It means a couple things. For one, it means that this area is theoretically a prime place for activity to happen. Because it's believed that spirits can feed off these electromagnetic fields. But also, this is the room where a lot of the activity happens. When he's sitting in the living room right over here, you'll see a lot of movement going around in this room. And if you can see it, okay, up here, there's a handprint. Can you see that handprint on the screen there? Barely. Let me get a little light on it there.
I think I actually do see it right there.
There's a handprint, if I can get the light on it right.
Yeah, up in the upper corner there.
Yeah, that is not his handprint.
Huh.
This just kind of appeared there, and the handprint is much smaller than his. So we're going to go around here, and I want to see, I'm interested to see throughout the house how high this field is. If it continues all throughout. Now it goes down about 1 milligauss when we come into the living room. But we're still up at 3.9. And then 4 as we get towards the middle. Okay, this is interesting. And I say this because we've established before that the K2 meter, the label seems to be wrong on it, right? Because the K2 meter usually reads higher than the tri-field meter.
Normally.
Right?
Not today.
No, today it's coming up to, you see the 2.5 line right there.
Right.
2.5 milligauss, and this is at 5.1 milligauss.
Huh. That's odd.
It is.
Well, it seems, given the reports of the activity and given the, the way things are going with the tri-field meter, we ought to concentrate mostly down here.
But now,
just went up
it's
a
up to
bit.
10, and this is up to 4.8.
Yeah.
So,
how about take the tri-field meter and put it up closer to the ceiling fan for me, and let's see if it gets it higher or lower.
Stays the same.
It does stay the same. Okay.
Stays the same.
Huh. All right.
So our baseline sweeps throughout the house. We determined the lowest points, the lowest spikes were in the living room, and then upstairs, okay, in the back left corner of the house, in that room, 3.6 was the lowest reading that we got on the tri-field meter. So very high levels throughout. We're still going to keep this on and monitor it, even though it's steady at a 4.8, 4.7. And I think we'll set up right here the REM pod, just to see if anything comes and interacts with it. Now, what I think we should do is maybe sit in the living room and then leave this room open and just put the REM pod down on the floor, see if anything will come out and mess with it. Okay, we'll introduce ourselves. I'm Jeff.
I'm Linda.
And we're here because we want to find out who it is that seems to come out in the dining room here at night. We have a little device that you could interact with. It's got a red light on it, that thing with the red light on it. If you come near that, the light will change colors, it'll make a little noise, and it will let us know that you're here. So you could use that, or you could try talking to us. There's the kitty. Could you try telling us your name? So we did an EVP session in the living room, and what we did is we sat in the living room, we watched the dining room, we put the voice recorder on the table because this is where a lot of the activity happens. Did you used to live in this house? Did you live somewhere nearby?
We've heard there's a firefighter that's here. Can you tell us who that is or what his name is?
From where do you enter the house? Clock makes a nice sound.
It does, yeah.
During the course of the EVP session, we took several pictures, looked for any anomalies in the pictures that we were taking. Alright, so I'm taking some pictures here, see if anything comes up.
I know I'm catching a lot of dust pretty close, like in this room.
Yeah.
It seems to be flowing this way, mostly.
The REM pod didn't go off. However, keep in mind the REM pod is not activated by EMF field. So even though there's a high EMF field in here, what's good about the REM pod is we can still use that because the EMF field is not going to trigger it. We decided to start the spirit box. And we put the spirit box kind of in a central location between the living room and the dining room. Put the voice recorder down next to it. And we sat there and asked some questions. Okay, we're starting up the spirit box. Could you try talking to us through this device down here on the floor? Could you try telling us who you are? How long have you been here for?
Did you once live in this house?
A few strange things seem to pop through, which we're going to have to go back and give further analyzation to, but no direct responses at first glance. Did you live here before this house was built? Do you maybe have a message? We could try to help you relay that message. If you could tell us what it's about. I did decide at one point to walk around in throughout the kitchen, in throughout the living room, just asking questions as I went along. And I took the K2 meter with me. Now what's interesting, the K2 meter, it seems to be backwards this time because usually that's water running, I'm assuming.
Sounds like water running.
Usually the K2 meter is more sensitive than the tri-field meter. But this time it's been quite the opposite. I took the K2 meter in the kitchen, and there's one sweet spot kind of in the middle of the kitchen where this thing just does not light up. And even around the perimeter of the kitchen, it's not going very high. I'd really like it if you talk to us. Do your best. I also have this device in my hand, green light. If you come near that, it could light up. Could let us know that you're here. It's a refrigerator. Okay, so we're going to take a walk down into the basement now, and there's an interesting report right here at the top of the stairs where the gentleman was here and he was on a video chat with somebody, and they said, hey, reach your hand out. Right in front of you is a firefighter. So there was a firefighter that this man saw coming up the stairs on the video chat. He said he reached his hand out and it was ice cold all around his hand. It's kind of random. There's a lot of spirits here that seem to be here and then gone with no real rhyme or reason. Perhaps it's somebody that used to live in this house. Perhaps there was a fire nearby. So many questions. But hopefully we'll get some answers tonight.
Oh, yeah. It looks like you're doing something with it.
Oh, wow. Look at this. This is amazing.
Yeah, true value cars. Cool. So we're going to start up the spirit box down here. There's been a couple of things that have been seen down here, and we want to give them, of course, a chance to be able to say something, to communicate with us. So we're going to start this up and see what we get.
Okay, I'm Jeff.
I'm Linda. We want to know who's been down here. Is there a woman down here that wears a white gown? If you're down here with us, can you tell us your name? Did you once live in this house?
Is there something that draws you to the basement of the house? Is there something down here that you would like us to find? Now, one thing I noticed is when I was standing over there by the washer and dryer, we had extremely high EMF levels. Now, keeping in mind that this is where, when he was standing there, he said this woman often appears over there, right? So this is quite possibly the perfect place for her to manifest. Theoretically speaking, as I mentioned before, spirits can feed off of electromagnetic fields. So if there is a high field over there, theoretically, she could definitely feed off it and use it to manifest. Yeah, look at that. It just peaked up to 5. I don't know if that's permanent, but that's steady there or not. Let's see. Oh, alright. Well, not a... No. It's a pretty high field over here, that's for sure.
Dryer.
So it is like the... Yeah, it's coming from the wiring up here.
Yeah.
See this? We're up to 9.
Yeah.
This would be the perfect place for her to manifest. Well, it is indeed, like I said, right where you said she was, that's the highest field.
Yeah.
You know, that's definitely the highest field. sounded kind of like a girl's voice right there.
It did. A young
Didn't it?
voice.
Sound like a little, yep.
Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah. Sound like you said, hey.
Hey or 8.
Hey, how's it going? Is there a firefighter that's down here in the basement? We also started asking some questions about the firefighter. We'd like to know about both of these people, the firefighter, the woman. Did this man, did he get hurt in the fire? Was there a fire in this area that he was maybe here to put out? We wanted to find out if he was here responding to a fire that was in this house or responding to a fire down the street. We did learn that back in the early 50s there was a fire nearby and a firefighter did perish in that fire. So perhaps his spirit is still wandering through the area, and maybe like many of these other spirits, he's drawn to this man because this man can see him. Was the fire where this house is? In this house, perhaps? What caused the fire? Okay, so we finished up our spirit box session down in the basement. We're going to go up into the dining room now and sit around the dining room table, activate the spirit box in the REM pod, and see what kind of possible responses we get. Okay, so we have this device here that you can come near.
Oh, he's trying to get your attention.
I thought something was tapping me on the arm for a second. We have this red light. If you come near that, it'll change colors and let us know that you're here. Who is it that does the tapping on the pipes? We also know the gentleman that lives here. He's heard some footsteps walking around over here when he was next door. Who is it that walks around this house? Are you okay with us being here? If you would rather us leave, not be here, we're hoping to offer you a way to tell us that. Come near that red light. Talk to us.
Can you tell us how long you lived in this house?
Okay, so we're hearing some thumps that we can't really pinpoint. One sounded like footsteps kind of walking right through. Perhaps the dining room or up the stairs there, like right behind us. And you could even hear stuff vibrating.
Mm-hmm. We've heard that you like to tap on things and make noises. Can you do that for us now? What was that?
I don't know, but I heard it. Where's the cat?
I don't know, but it came from in here.
Yeah, it came from in there and right that way.
That did not sound like a thump or a knock.
No, it sounded like a gurgle.
Yeah.
Like if I just had a bunch of sheets,
yeah,
you know, like a build your own burger sheets, that's what it would sound like.
We started playing this game that the client plays often here, and 1 tap for yes and 2 for no, and started asking yes or no questions. But the funny thing was that it seemed like every time Jeff would turn the camera one direction, the tap would come from the opposite direction. So he'd swing it around and ask another question, and the tap would come from the opposite direction. Never once when we were sitting here did it seem to come from the direction in which Jeff was pointing the camera. So it's almost like they don't want to be seen. They're afraid that we're going to be aware of their presence by the tapping, and that they might be caught on video. Do you have some sort of message for us? If you do, can you knock on something or tap on something?
There was something, right? Can you knock twice on the pipe? If the answer is no. Okay, could you, we'll do that. Twice for no. Once for yes. Are you a female? Are you willing to play this game? Are you willing to tap on the pipe to respond to us? Yeah, here we go.
That was loud. Is that one of the radiator pipes over there you're talking about?
That was right here. That would be a yes.
No, I thought it was back here.
That came from the living room pipe where the radiator is. Not the pipe that's going up the wall, but right where the radiator is.
Oh, okay.
So she's down in that corner in the front of the cellar.
Okay. All right, so if you are willing to...
But it was a single knock.
That's yes. That's a yes.
That's a yes.
So I said, are you willing to play this? And yes, okay. For one, let me ask you this. Are you okay with us being here? All right, we got a single knock. We're back over in the kitchen side this time. So going back over here, let me ask you this. I just want to ask a confirming question, okay? Would you like us to leave?
There was something that sounded like two light taps back this way.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah, it was like, it was very quiet.
We want to find out, how old are you? Are you above the age of 20? What's that?
I don't know.
I have no idea.
That was
Like
a male.
right. It wasn't a male's voice.
It was.
A little rumbling before, like a dum 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 dum.
No.
No.
This was a man's voice.
Yeah, I heard that part, but there was a little sound that came before it, I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he was mad or something.
Yeah.
Like a grunt.
Like frustrated.
Yep. Well, at least I know I can frustrate them.
There's the tap. Now
And exactly the way you're not pointing the camera again.
the way I'm not pointing. Yeah. We got some. We had some significant taps. That's for sure.
Yes, we did.
And even as Linda was talking,
One
significant.
behind me. Yeah.
And at first, I would have thought like, okay, water heater pipes, but it just was weird because it was almost like, the gentleman here, he said that you ask yes or no, and it'll do two if it's no, and one if it's yes. So pretty interesting. I don't think we really got No response, did we?
No.
We didn't get any no responses.
No, it's all yes.
It was all yes, but we heard some strange noises coming from the living room over here that we really couldn't explain. Sounded kind of like a gurgling type noise.
Yes.
And I'm hoping the recorder picked that up so we can kind of
It sounded
amplify
like
it a little
was
bit.
right.
Hi everybody, and welcome to the Paranormal Evidence Room. Quite a case up there in Scranton, Pennsylvania. It definitely was. Now this was a unique case because it was the kind of case where a lot of the spirits seem to be random. Mm-hmm. Many cases that we'll go to, it's one or two particular pieces of activity that they'll describe, which seems like it's coming from possibly the same spirit or a few spirits that seem to be reoccurring in this house. Well, in this particular case, there were all kinds of different spirits that were being seen. From a woman down in the basement that he described as being a teenager, wearing an old-time type dress.
Yes.
There was a firefighter that was coming up out of the basement, an older woman with a cane that was seen throughout the house, random footsteps and sounds throughout.
Right, right. And the evidence that we got really seems to back that up as well. It seemed like a lot of different people talking, as a matter of fact. So kind of led me to believe that there were probably multiple spirits in the house.
Right, right. Now, we've talked about random spirits quite a few times. We have, and what brings them to somebody. Now, this gentleman, the client, he is somebody who has had these experiences since he was a young child.
Yes.
Had a near-death experience way back, and ever since then, this has been occurring.
Right.
So this can be the case sometimes when somebody has a traumatic experience.
Yes.
Sometimes it opens them to seeing beyond the veil.
Right, right.
Now, before we go over to the computer, there's one response that seemed to be picked up on the video camera, okay? And this was when we're upstairs in the living room, and we're sitting there running the spirit box, and I ask, how long have you been here?
Right.
This is the response that came through. How long have you been here for? Now it sounds like you can hear the number 17 come through here.
It does.
Possibly saying, I'm 17.
Yes.
Now, if this would be a response to that question, potentially. How long have you been here? I'm 17, meaning I'm 17 years old. I've been here for 17 years. Now, that doesn't mean, though, that the spirit has a consciousness that tells him how long he's actually been at that house.
Right.
If this was somebody that was 17 and died back in the 1940s, to him, he's still 17 years old.
Exactly. Exactly. Right? So it's really hard to tell from that response when they actually arrive there.
Right, right. So it's a questionable response. It really is. Some possible evidence. But we're going to go over to the computer here and take a look at some other possible responses that were captured on the recorder.
So the first piece of evidence we have was Spirit Box. All of these were actually Spirit Box session responses. And this was when we were down in the basement. And we had just started the Spirit Box session. We were not even into it yet. We were just in the introductions where we were saying our names. And we got a response immediately afterward that wasn't really necessarily a response to a question, but we thought that it was somewhat interesting with what it said. So we chose to clip it out.
Jeff?
I'm Linda. So it sounded to us like a male voice came through immediately after I said, I'm Linda, and it said, that's creepy, or it's creepy. So, which kind of was amusing considering the fact that we're sitting there talking to spirits, and the spirit is saying that this is creepy. So, kind of a strange response. But the next one that we have is another one that was from the same session, and you can hear Jeff's question first, and then you can hear the response afterward a little bit quieter, but not so quiet that you can't understand it.
Is there something that draws you to the basement of the house?
So this sounded like somewhat of a female voice, and it sounded like the response was, don't be stupid. Now, considering the fact that there's this major attraction down there, this giant train set, and, you know, we're like, hey, you know, is there something that draws you here? Perhaps somebody was like, oh, come on, don't be stupid. Like, look at this thing. You know, wouldn't you be drawn down here as well? So another kind of strange response, but a totally different voice than what we had heard before. Now, the next one that we have is another kind of interesting response. I'm not real sure how this relates to the question that we were asking, but considering that there was someone in the household that had this name that's spoken, we thought it was kind of an interesting response.
Heard a thump upstairs. Is that the cat jumping down? It might be.
Yeah, it did sound. That was pretty loud.
Sounded like a
Yeah.
It's my move. She's doing twins.
Oh, you think so?
Thank God.
Oh, yeah. Now, what you hear there is you hear all of us talking. You hear us talking about a noise that we had heard upstairs while we were still downstairs in the basement. And we're talking amongst ourselves, maybe theorizing as to what exactly that thump was. And then somebody else comes through at the very end there and says it was Anthony. Now, Anthony was not home at the time. Like, we know that Anthony was not the one creating this noise. But what's interesting is that it confirms that the spirits actually, even if they don't see us at that exact moment, that they at least acknowledge that they know who we are and that they know that we're around them. So the next one that we have here is kind of a strange response as well. It's not really a response, and a lot of these things that we chose from here almost sounded like spirits talking amongst themselves as opposed to responding to our questions and our comments. And this is one of them. And we thought it was kind of a strange thing to say, so we definitely pulled it out. And here it is.
We're hoping to offer you a way. If you would rather us leave, not be here, we're hoping to offer you a way to tell us that. Come near that red light. Talk to us.
What you hear is Jeff trying to elicit some sort of response from the spirits, trying to get them to say either they want us to stay, they want us to leave, something along those lines. And then you hear a little bit of movement and some noise in between there. At the very end of the clip, you hear somebody come through, kind of a male voice, and it says, "We died for them." But what you don't really hear unless you have the headphones on is that immediately afterward, it says, "Our people." So we died for them, our people. Kind of a strange response. Like I said, certainly don't know exactly what that means or how that relates to the situation, but kind of a strange thing that you wouldn't normally hear on the radio. Now, the next one that we have is also another thing that you definitely don't hear on the radio. And we're not exactly sure how this relates to the situation or perhaps to the people that used to live in the house a long time ago. But I'll play that one for you and see what you think. Favorite room in the house? So I'm asking what room in the house is your favorite, what room in the house, and the response that comes through is "Our maids in hell." So I wasn't real sure what to think of this. Of course, there's tons of theories that you can come up with. Perhaps the maid hurt somebody and the maid ended up going to jail and they're saying the maid's in hell. Whatever the case may be, I'm not exactly sure, but it's certainly not typical radio chatter and banter. So again, we thought it was kind of one of those things that we thought we would pull out and sort of use as an example of the type of things that we kept hearing throughout these spirit box sessions. These comments that we weren't really able to piece together, but that taken individually sounded so fascinating that we almost had to pay attention.
So a couple of interesting things here in this spirit box session, in these spirit box sessions. And one that I'd like to kind of bring attention to was the one where we say our names and it said creepy.
Yes.
after that. I've often theorized, whereas when we see spirits, what if in certain cases, maybe not in all cases, but what if in certain cases, as crazy as it sounds, we're actually catching a glimpse through the timeline, into the past, of something that's happened in the past.
Right.
And it's not a spirit, it's actually happening in the past.
Yes.
And we're hearing their voices peek through.
Yes.
And on the flip side of that, in the past, they can hear our voices come through.
Yeah.
So maybe picture this being like 1930, someone's in this house in the basement, and they hear our voices
Yes.
come through saying, "I'm Jeff." And these guys are down there in the basement like, that's creepy.
Yeah, that's
And they're not ghosts at all. They're living people. Right. And, you know, our voices somehow traveled through time.
Right, because it could very well be that instead of portals being doorways by which spirits can pass from our time to wherever they go beyond the veil, it could be that there are certain portals that are like time portals that just let a little bit of information or a little bit of sound through as well.
Right.
And that this sound can come through at certain moments and people hear it like a voice coming from somewhere in the house when they're alone, and they're like, what the hell is that? And it ends up being somebody from way back in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the other thing that was interesting, too, was we died for them.
Yes.
Our people.
Our people.
I wonder if this relates to the firefighter. The gentleman did say that there was a firefighter that perished in a fire near there.
Yes.
At one point in time, or it was back in the 1950s. I wonder if this was a firefighter coming through.
It very well could have been. It could have been the firefighter. It could have been some response as to, you know, maybe there was a fire in the neighborhood where the firefighter lived. And that would mean, you know, why we died for them, you know, our people. Like, these are our people from our neighborhood. These are our family, our friends,
right.
You know. But it possibly could be. It could be a dozen other things as well.
Right.
You know, it could have been as far back as before that was actually any kind of settlement. When it was all marshland. Scranton used to be all marshland. So I'm sure it was occupied by Native Americans like so many other areas were. You know, who knows? Who knows could have said it, but...
Absolutely. But some interesting pieces of possible evidence here
right.
From this investigation. So I want to thank you all for joining us. Until next time, I'm Jeff.
And I'm Linda.
And remember, there's much more to see in the dark.